on that foreign show. We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you every Friday here at TFS. That foreign show. We'll be seeing you on that foreign show. We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you.
ADR Networks presenta Las opiniones expresadas en este programa son responsabilidad exclusiva de quienes las emiten y no representan necesariamente el pensamiento o alguna posición oficial de este medio de comunicación.
All right, and we are back. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to That Foreign Show. My name is Isaac Rakesh.
And I'm Celestine Angel, and we are here on ADR Networks, activating your senses. All right, so today we have Imogen, who's from the UK, with us.
Yes.
In a little bit. She's already backstage. And before that, we will like to share with you an event that is going on this month.
Yes, this event, this segment is actually the part of the show where we kind of share things that we want to share with you guys. Stuff that we find exciting, like this event. Now, if you can pull the poster up on screen for us, all right, you will see this thing that is called Freaky Camp, all right?
Yeah, so in general, this segment, we are just talking mostly about ourselves. We are the vocalists of Illuminary, and we are going to be playing in this interesting festival called Freaky Camp. It's going to have like cosplay, it's going to have an anime party, it's going to have us playing, and it's an overnight camping thing in Iztapaluca. And like we've heard, we have not seen, but the Iztapaluca nature is another level. So like we are pretty excited, and we want to see what, like how the stars look at night. And yeah,
it's going to be really interesting. And if you look at the poster, you actually see a kind of Mario-looking kind of figure holding a Star Wars thing, And there you go, right? Freaky Camp. So you get the vibe when you see this, right? When you look at this, you can actually get a kind of an idea of what the vibe is going to be over there. There's also going to be apparently an anime party, a nighttime anime party, and also an open air cinema, right?
yeah, and cosplay competition, torneos, gamer. So like it feels like all things Asian, like the fun, cute stuff, and it's for families. So we are going to be playing on the 25th, but this event goes from 24th to the 26th. So yeah.
Yes, so come on down, all right?
Yeah.
Iztapaluca is happening 24th to the 26th of April, right? It is free entry, right? You can just come on down, check out what is going on.
And bring your tents.
Yes.
Also, I think there will be tents for rent there, but at this point, I have not fully confirmed with the organizers. They are still doing their best to pull the whole event together well. Okay, I think we should jump quickly in since Imogen is already backstage. So
Yes.
we are going to introduce Imogen.
Hi guys.
Hi. Okay, so we have Imogen from the Freedom Geek, the founder of the Freedom Geek, and she's going to tell us all about it and how that relates to our show as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so Imogen, please tell us some things about yourself.
Sure. Hi everyone. So as mentioned, I'm the founder of this company, the Freedom Geek, And basically, we help entrepreneurs, small business owners, a lot of real estate investors in the UK find and work with virtual assistants from the Philippines. So sort of like a recruitment agency, but I don't really like that term because I'm very passionate about helping entrepreneurs, and recruitment just, it doesn't sort of convey my passion. And then I've been doing that and traveling the world for 8 years now.
That's really, really interesting. First thing that comes to mind when people think virtual assistant, right? They think like it's for CEOs, or leaders of companies, millionaires, that kind of thing. Uh, what? I mean, I bet that's not true, right? Maybe you can enlighten us.
Well, the reason people think that is because they think that if you're a millionaire, your time is so valuable that you need the support to take care of the little tasks that you don't want to do. But that's kind of true of every business owner, because as soon as you start a business, if you're on your own, you have every job in the business. You are sales, you are marketing, you are operations, you are finance, you are every project that comes up. If you don't have any support, it's all you. And your time is still really valuable. So you need to choose what you do and what someone else does for you. And, millionaires have got very good at that. They're very strategic about their time. That's why they make so much money with the time they have.
And so for the rest of the people who are trying to get to that stage, I guess it's something that they should really do, right?
I think as soon as you start a business and the business starts growing, maybe it's true of all projects. I know that we had a little prior conversation that just tried to ask it. But you guys are live right now. And you can interview, you can perform. But outside of that, there's a lot of work to do. There's administration, there's promotion, there's social media. So I don't know how much time you're actually performing compared to how much time you're trying to arrange performances, reach out to people and do a lot of that kind of admin work. And I bet your ideal would be to only perform and to have someone else do all of that. So that's kind of where you want to get to with having the right support from them.
Well, yeah. Okay. If you're going to be really honest, that question came from Cloud, right? Okay, and it was just something that it's and and the way that you explain it, makes perfect sense. Like now with AI and everything, everyone is it is kind of in the back of people's minds. Like, how can I get an assistant, right? Like, or how can I get some assistance, right? From technology, or in the case of your company, hooking people up with assistance remotely, right? Can you explain a bit about how you came to this idea in the first place to come up with this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I used to work in the corporate world, like a normal job, if you want to call it that. And I wasn't very happy there. I really wanted to do something else. And the first business that I started before this one was in real estate. And I was doing that business outside of my job. So, I was already working quite hard. And to run the business, I would do it like an hour or two before work, on my lunch break, after work, in the evenings, weekends. This was the time that I had to run my business. And it was very overwhelming. So that's when I thought I really kind of need some help with this. And it was trial and error. I read an amazing book called The 4-Hour Work Week, and they started talking about outsourcing in that book. And it caught my attention. I had sort of vaguely heard of outsourcing to the Philippines. And then I ran a job advert. I got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of applications from that job advert. And the interesting thing about the Philippines is that a starting rate there for someone to work with you would be like, let's say £3 an hour. If we're talking US dollars, let's say around $4 an hour. Whereas locally in the UK, it's going to cost at least 4 or 5 times that for the cheapest possible person, if not 10 times for someone with some experience. The same is going to be true in the USA. So when you're a business owner and you're just starting, you may not have a lot of money. This is such an interesting prospect to be like, okay, I can hire one person to support me in the UK or the USA, or I can hire 10 people for the same amount of money in the Philippines. Like, that's so much more muscle for your resources. And just to speak to them, for them, that rate, it's still double what they would be paid locally. It's not a bad deal for them. They get to work from home. A lot of people love to work from home, and they get a rate that would be double what they might be offered in a local market job. So it's still very attractive for them. And so I went and tried this. It wasn't perfect on day one, but I got very good at it. I got very good at finding good people. And then I started to get them to run my real estate business for me. And then other real estate investors in the UK were like, how have you done this? Like, what do they do for you? How much do they cost? How are you doing it? So I started explaining what I had done. And what I thought would happen is that they would copy me. And I was fine with that. At the time, I was like, yeah, just take the information. But what actually happened is people are like, well, you've got good at this. I want you to do this for me. I want you to find the person and I'll pay you for it. So that business kind of started itself by accident while I was trying to run another business. And I was also working my job. And then I was under a lot of pressure because I had one job and two businesses. And this Filipino business support business was exploding. And I was not promoting it. People were almost insisting to do business with me. And like at that time, this is 11 years ago, in that business community, no one was really doing this. Now, like, I mean, me through my agency, we've placed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Filipino virtual assistants into that community. And now everybody knows about it. Quite a few people in that community know my brand. I do quite a bit of speaking and podcasting, talking about it, because I can also link the UK real estate investing strategy with how someone can support them. So that's one reason they quite like me, because I sort of sit between the two worlds. And then as I was doing this, I was really running that business from my bedroom. I wasn't going out to meetings. I was like, to get out and cross London and meet someone and come back, and it will take me like 4 hours. So I would only do it over the phone because I was like, I can do 4 phone calls, 4 meetings instead of 1 meeting with all the travel. And I was really insistent on that. And then it just came to a day where I realized, I was like, if this carries on growing like this, I don't really need to be in the UK. I can work from anywhere. And that's why in 2018, I quit my job. I bought a one-way ticket to South Africa, and I have been traveling ever since. I'm like half based in Mexico now, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a really cool story. So, like, wherever you go, do you also build your business like locally? Like right now in Mexico, do you also have clients here?
No, I'm not actually. It's funny because my business has been hugely through word of mouth. It's like 90% word of mouth referrals and then 10% podcasting. To be honest, podcasting, I've written magazine articles, that kind of thing. The community, like half our business is returning customers. So it's very active. People are hiring more. We've had people, they come, they hire their first VA, Filipino VA, and then within a short amount of time, they've hired 15. And it makes me laugh. I was like, it's like you were doing the work of like 16 people before, and now you've learned how to do this. You're now, getting that work pushed off to other people so you can really run the business. But no, it's mostly still been my client base in the UK. The real estate community, they've got other business owners cross over into different types of businesses like I do. And then about 20% comes from the USA. And then occasionally we'll get someone from Australia or Canada who's heard of me. But my business is really for the English speaking world. So the only people I could potentially do business here are maybe some of the American entrepreneurs on the ground. But a lot of them are very technical. They're not really in the same space. So no, I work remotely from Mexico because I love it in Mexico. It's not really a strategic choice. I am looking into sourcing VAs from Latin America because it would be wonderful if my Filipino VA kind of did the day. And then when they go to sleep, the Latin American VA came on and took on the night shift, but no one's actually pushed out of horrible hours. I love that vision. But the market
Good
is really
idea.
the market's not the same here. It's not so easy to recruit in this way for various reasons. But it's something that I'm still considering. I've experimented with different regions, India, South Africa, etc.
Right.
So everyone kind of romanticizes like this idea of working remotely, right? And what can you give us some insight as to what it actually really entails, or what it feels like, or what you've had to go through to actually get this business to where it's at?
Yeah, I think working remotely is very easy to misunderstand. So you see Instagram and everyone's lives look kind of perfect from what they're posting on Instagram, and I can make my life look perfect and people can make some wrong assumptions. The top wrong assumptions probably that I'm not working very hard, because I am. It's just when I happen to post a story, the story is fantastic, and people are like, "Oh, she never works because look where she is. She's in the sunshine." And I'm like, "Yeah, but that was the weekend, and I just worked 12 hours a day for the last 5 days. You just see the little snapshot there, and I am having a nice day today. I'm sharing it." I did challenge myself once to post something every day, and I have so many boring days. I was taking pictures of like the pot plant in my house because I didn't leave my house, and I was like, I got nothing to tell you today. So I would stop doing that. I'm like, I'm only going to tell stories when I'm actually out doing things. So I think that's one misunderstanding. I think a lot of people that are motivated to remote work, their time outside of work is really cool because they've decided to go to some country that they love and do some really cool things there, but they're still working hard. And then the second one probably is a similar thing, that people are like, oh, they're just rich. Like maybe you got money from mummy and daddy and you're traveling around the world spending it. And I'm like, again, no, it comes down to hard work. I was running this business for 3 years before I left the UK. I sacrificed my weekends, my evenings, my lunch breaks, as I mentioned before. A lot of people are not willing to do that, and that's fine. But you know, it's this thing. There's this expression about if you do the hard things, things become easy. If you do the easy things, things become hard. Like that kind of discipline to be able to do that. I think remote work as well. A mistake that I made in my first year was I moved too much and I spent too much. So I really went a bit nuts. I did 12 cities in 11 countries in 12 months. And one reason I did my first long stint in Mexico is because I really ran out of money when I got here. I spent too much. So I had to stop and like recalibrate. I would recommend, especially if you're building a business, because anyone who's involved with this will know it's really hard work. It's no joke. Maybe just go to an affordable country, you know, obviously look at what appeals to you, but places like Vietnam or maybe Colombia, the cost of living can be so affordable. It just means that you have a bit more time to build that business base. And then when you're a bit more financially stable, then you can start jumping around and being a bit more glamorous. I think I overshot myself in that aspect in year one, and then spent year two kind of recovering from it, both energy wise and financially. It was a bit too much. So these are things that are misunderstood. And I do think that for some people, this is a wonderful way of life. Maybe some of us are very motivated by variety and growth. And for other people, it's their worst nightmare. Everything is too unstable and it's too hard for them. We all have a stimulation balance. And I've seen people on digital nomad forums like freaking out, being like, how can anyone do this? I'm going home. I cannot take this anymore. And I'm like, it's funny because you watched all the Instagram stories and you thought this was a paradise with no problems. But everyone's got problems, and nomads and remote workers have got nomad and remote working problems. Like they might be different to your 9 to 5 at home problems, but we all have problems. Problems
So
just change.
how did you figure out your own regulation, your balance?
Yeah, it was an accident actually, and it was the COVID apocalypse that made it very clear to me that first of all, I couldn't travel anymore like I was, because I started traveling before COVID. So I came to Mexico. I'd been here before and I came back. I didn't have a lot of options actually. Everyone remember a lot of the borders around the world were closed. We really weren't letting people in. But I knew Mexico were clearly going to keep the borders open because they hadn't shut them at a certain point when everyone else had. And I was like, okay, so Mexico's basically open. The UK is also going to let me back in if I really desperately have to get back in. And so I came back to Mexico. And during that time, I was based in Mexico City, and about once a month, I would leave and travel to a different part of Mexico. And I just felt so much more regulated, stable, happy. I just had this nice balance of a bit of travel, but also friendships, routines, and things around the side of it. And it made me realize that I do need some kind of base, maybe a couple of bases. I'm still experimenting with the model a little bit, but yeah, to not have a base and to endlessly jump from one place to another. I mean, maybe some people could do it, but certainly not me. And I think that's one reason I haven't burnt out 8 years in, when I've seen a lot of people burn out.
So you were saying, I think you mentioned that you're like 50% of the time based here, or Did you say that? And then the other 50 back in the UK or where?
No, it's been very loose. So I like to experiment with it year on year. So I think since, let's say, since 2019, I first got here. Since then, I've been here between 50 and 70% of the time. So last year and this year, I've very much been based in Mexico, hopping out. I don't spend that much time in the UK, maybe 2 to 4 weeks a year at the most. More like 2 weeks these days. I'm not so interested in living in the UK. But what I'm planning to do in the next couple of years is I want to rotate 3 or 4 bases. I would like to do Mexico, somewhere in Europe, maybe Spain and Portugal, and probably Thailand. I really fell in love with Thailand, and just see if that rotation feels good to have more than one base, or if it feels like, again, I've gone to the overstimulation side and it's too much to manage, and just bring it back in. So I'm still experimenting, but I'm here. I've got my residency. This is where my friendships are, these days. And yeah.
Yo, sounds like you're living the life, honestly. I mean,
Yeah.
you've
Seeing the world, right? And
yeah, and also
building a business.
building a business, and you've crossed that stage. You mentioned that the initial 2 year stage in your case, right? Like, and the business is kind of afloat now. Can you, just curiosity's sake, right? Maybe walk us through what a day is like for you. Are you? I mean, obviously you're on your computer a lot as you do your work and everything. But how do you, like, what do you do? Like, what is it like for you?
Yeah, I'm very, very, very bad at routines, I've got to be honest. So I kind of sort of do what I feel like around certain commitments. So, I had this podcast commitment today. I was here for this. I'm always here for those kind of commitments. But occasionally I'll go to a WeWork because I've got like a free membership there. I last about 3 hours in there, and then I need to change environment because I am a bit erratic that way. I'm quite a creative person. But I will go into sort of alternating hyper focus and work on mostly projects to do with my business. So I look at our existing services, the big problems we have and how to solve them. And I think about how we launch or refine our services. And I think a lot about our customers. What do they really want and need? And how do I make the experience fantastic for them? That's why we've grown so much through word of mouth, is because I really understand the people that I work with. I have the same problems as them. We're all running businesses, and I'm a bit ahead of them, so I can teach them, what comes next. So that's really cool, and I enjoy being creative within the business. I try and delegate anything boring that I consider boring away from me as much as possible. I'm a queen of delegation. That's why I've got my team. One of my main things in life, and that's what I teach other business owners, is if I've got stuff I want to do, who can do it for me, and how quickly can I get rid of it, but it still gets done. So, I've done that relentlessly for 10 years to make sure that I can run the business in the way that suits me. I will still do, I suppose, I have my own sales team now. I mean, I recruited them and trained them to sell. Now I only really get involved with that with things like webinars, like a kind of one-to-many model. So I will always appear for that kind of thing because it's fantastic for the business, and it's actually quite fun for me. So I suppose everything that I work on is mostly problem solving, creative, or a type of selling, but almost like when you're on a webinar, it's almost like performing. There's a formula to it. I like to have fun with people. I try and make them laugh. I want them to interact with me. So if the webinar is boring, I'm not interested in it. It's not my standard. So I try and make sure that everyone who turns up kind of gets education, but also inspiration and entertainment as part of that package, and hopefully transformation. I hope that I can really help people get to another stage in their business, because it's a very tough thing. And I love it when people start a business, because those people are really fighting for a better life. They're looking to transform their life. And so with new products and services, those are the things that change the world. When someone created Uber, it changed the world. When someone created, these other things, Apple, it changed the world. And we might be doing it on a much smaller scale, but I love it that those are the people that I get to work with. So yeah, my days are sometimes I'm working late to speak to Asia, my team over there. I tend to do that on Monday and Tuesday nights. Other than that, I work a lot, but I try and work on a rhythm that allows for me to not feel like I have to do things, because I have quite a strong resistance to that.
Wait, I'm personally, I'm really interested to know, like, in all the different countries that you have visited, how do you feel you have grown? You know, like, what are the special qualities of like the each country's environment? You know, because you've traveled so much, 8 years of moving around.
Yeah, do you know what? It's very funny because I think when I first started traveling, like I said, it was 12 cities, 11 countries in 12 months in year one. And going so fast through different environments really taught me that environments are kind of like people. You like some, you don't like some. And sometimes the ones you think you're going to connect with, you don't connect with. And the ones you don't think you're going to connect with, you connect with. And I think a lot of my assumptions about traveling were wrong. Before that, I mean, I always traveled a lot in my life, but mostly it was going on holiday. And that's very different to experiencing life in a place, even for a month, because it is a month of going to the supermarket and going to the coffee shops and interacting with the culture and doing your laundry and these everyday things. So, you know, the month does give you a lot of information about where you are and how you feel about it. And even the different apartments, like the layout, the way that they were. So everything from how I feel about plants and sunlight around me and having a terrace and not having a terrace, like became really clear to me. Like, you know, okay, I kind of know exactly what sort of place I want to live, both in the what sort of accommodation I'll feel relatively happy in. You know, if it's walkable, I'm happy. If it's not walkable, I'm not happy. Very simple thing. Coming from London, we always walk everywhere, and I love that. As soon as that's taken away and it's like a drive-only city, I'm miserable. Just little things like that. And then the feeling of the culture as well. I was talking to a good friend of mine who's nomadic about cultures, and he was asking me why I liked Latin America. And then I also mentioned particular European and Asian countries that I liked and other ones that I'd struggled with. And he said to me, oh, so do you think you are particularly drawn to family orientated cultures? Because all of those cultures you're talking about are very family orientated, maybe a bit chaotic as well. And I was like, oh, 100%. Like, that is absolutely something that I feel very connected to and love to find. And if I'm in a culture that's very different from that, it's maybe a lot more reserved, a lot more cold, I immediately start to struggle within 24 hours. I don't feel at home and I don't feel right there. So there've been a lot of lessons for sure with that. And what kind of place. I'm also a capital city girl, or definitely a big city girl. Coming from London, you know, Mexico City is much bigger than London, 2.5 times bigger than London. But like it's the closest to Mexican London that I'm going to find. So, and that kind of works for me. And it's going to be similar in whatever country I go to. It's got to be somewhere with that vibrancy, with an international community as well. When I first started traveling, I think I was very naive. I was like, oh, you can just drop me anywhere and I'll be fine. Well, it turns out that's not true. Although I love being around certain cultures, I also love being around the other people who have decided to leave their respective countries, travel the world. I just think there's something that unites us in mindset in doing something that's either brave, terrifying, a bit of both. And I always just find these people great, and that we don't have typical societal expectations. They're not sitting going, oh, you're a woman of, I think, about this age, and therefore let's talk about your kids and let's talk about your mortgage and let's talk about when you're next going on holiday. We will never have those conversations. We will never have them. It doesn't even exist in our world.
The super small talk, right? That's not going to happen. And like, it really feels like the travelers, they are a whole different type of people altogether. And like back in London, do you also hang out with people, international people, or just the people you grew up with?
I did grow up with some international people. London is very international, so that's always been a certain element of my life. But no, usually when I go back to the UK now, I'm hanging around with the normal people, and they do find my life pretty weird. They don't really know what to ask me, and I love those people. I've spent a lot of time with them, but also when I spend time with them, I see exactly what I moved away from, and I'm very glad that I moved away from it, because I don't want to live like that. So yeah.
I guess we gotta make a disclaimer here. We say international people and normal people. You know, we're just kind of using these terms loosely. You know, and like I mean, I just want to say that Singapore, where we're from, is also a very international kind of place, right?
Right.
And what we actually kind of mean about these people is nothing about class or anything like that, or economic status in life. We just mean
Like
people
different
who
choices
have
and mindset and all
mindset,
that, right?
People who are,
Yeah, there's the life design, right? There's the people that are like, I'm going to design my life. I'm not going to do what is maybe mapped out for a lot of people. I'm actually going to do something very different. I'm going to tear up what is the typical roadmap, and I'm going to go and do something very, very different. And for the people at home living more traditional way, it's kind of, I think, scary and very difficult to understand when someone does something like that.
Yes, totally. That's exactly it, right? They like it freaks them out to think about like completely pioneering their own life or something. Yeah.
yeah. So what did the people back home, like kind of not understand, about in your case about the thing that you were doing or building?
Well, first year, it was very much like, when are you coming home? When are you done with this cute little thing that you're doing? That definitely bled into year two. Less questions, but a few people being like, when are you done with this? When are you coming back? Obviously, year 8 now, people have just given up on that. I think that they definitely try and find a comfort cook. So a lot of people are like, oh, so you live in Mexico now? And I'm like, for the moment, and they don't like that answer either, because they just want some kind of stability, predictability
Right,
about
right.
what I'm going to do in the next couple of years. And
Yeah. It's still up in the air for them.
yeah, when I
right?
can't even do that, I'm like, I could move to Thailand tomorrow if I want to, and I can just see how uncomfortable they get with that thought. Like, it's just my comfort with I mean, I'm not going to do it tomorrow, but like, all of those things I think are a bit strange for people. And I think that a lot of the time now, people just don't really know what to ask me. I sit around with my friends and we'll talk about whatever they're comfortable with. No one really asks me about the lifestyle. And if someone comes and asks me about the lifestyle in a very kind of persistent and detailed way, that's usually because they're genuinely called to it and they really want to try it and they want to wring all the information out of my brain. And I love that conversation, but it very rarely happens. When I went to my brother's wedding a few years ago, a lot of people at the wedding came up to me. I didn't know a lot of them, and they were like, oh, you're the girl who travels. And it wasn't even a question, it was just a statement. And many of them kind of said that to me. And I was like, yep. And then I was trying to figure out what they wanted me to talk about, because I was like, it's a very open statement. Like, and that's obviously like an identity they're trying to get their head around, which they gave to me. I have different identities I gravitate towards, including the entrepreneurial one. So I'm just like, what would you like to ask me? What do you want to talk about? And I think that, it was just very interesting for them. A lot of people really aspire to it in retirement as well, right? A lot of people are like, I'm going to work my whole life and then I'm going to like go on a cruise, or I'm going to travel a lot. And that's something I thought about now. I'm ironically, I'm both retired because I get to do all the retirement things like travel the world and have nice meals in the sun, but I'm also still working. So I'm not really retired, but a lot of those things that people aspire to in retirement, I've integrated into my life. Thank God. Yeah. So I don't have to wait for it. But yeah, people find me very strange, and I think they like to watch me and try and figure it out, but they don't really know what to make of it. And I'm fine with that. So yeah.
Strange. Strange is good. I mean, not strange means you're different. You're doing something new and unique. This theme you mentioned, identity. This theme comes up a lot when we talk to people, and it's this idea of an identity shift. Especially for people who travel, who leave your home, or in your case, with the added layer of trying to build your own business also. In your case, can you tell us a bit about this? Like, was there a moment where you were somewhere foreign and you kind of didn't recognize what you were doing, or the opposite, you had like extreme clarity, you're like tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I think my biggest identity thing that really I connect with is the lifestyle design, because that can mean anything. Like, you could be at home wherever that is and redesign your life completely. Like, people, it's not always about going and working in Thailand. You could you could do that from your hometown. You could completely reinvent yourself and everything around you, and I love that. Yeah, so lifestyle design feeds into entrepreneurship. It feeds into being a digital nomad or whatever you want to call the remote workers, and it feeds into probably like athletics, the people that are like, I'm an athlete. And when you decide you are a certain thing, it influences every micro decision you make. You wake up and you're like, I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm going to work on my business. I'm a traveler, so I'm going to start thinking about when I'm going to go to Thailand, whatever it is. I'm like an athlete, so I'm going to like lift today because that's who I am. So I think it's really interesting. And I mean, clarity, when I was back in the UK working corporate, I felt a bit like a zombie. I felt like I was dead inside. There must be more to life. And I was like, oh my God, am I going to do this for another 10, 20, 30 years feeling this way now? I'm like, it's just not worth living. So for me, I had to make the change. That's the kind of person that I am. I think, don't get me wrong, there are days that I wake up and I'm like, why, like, what am I doing? Like, why am I here? Like, am I happy? Like, what is going on? And then I have little freakouts every now and again. I think that's normal. I did a trip last year that was very, very fast. I went through a lot of locations very quickly and I got very tired. And I'd signed up for this for like 2.5 months. And about halfway through, I was just like, oh, I feel terrible. Like, why did I travel so fast through? Like, what am I doing? I was like, this is completely the wrong pace. I should know better at this point. But then I'm like, right, no fast trips for longer than a month and just breathe. Like, you're okay. That's the point where you crashed. So yeah, but it's normal. Like I could be at home and be like normal and try to be normal and have a day and be like, what the hell am I doing with my life? I'm so unhappy. Or what's the point? What does this all mean? I think everyone goes through that, whatever they're trying to do. So I don't think it's necessarily just true for us. It's just weirder with us because we put ourselves in, I don't know, a village in Vietnam or something and then suddenly go, this was a terrible idea. Like we've done something really extreme. And then we're like, right, let's just stop and rebalance and reflect on why I did this and why I might not do this again,
So jumping back to your business, right? Because I'm very interested as an artist myself, like how it can benefit creatives. Like,
Well, it's just literally, it's the same thing. It's like focusing all of your time on energy on what you really want to do and not doing any of the other stuff. So you were messaging me to set up for this podcast. Why is that you? Why isn't it an assistant? I bet you don't enjoy that. I bet if you were given a list of the 10 things that you do every day and you're like, I'm going to keep 2 and 8 of them someone else is going to do for me. I mean, Madonna's not sending her own messages or Dua Lipa or whatever. Someone else is doing all of that for them. So because their time is most valuable when they're performing. And if you can also protect them from everything else, they're probably going to have all of that energy for performing as well. Because when you're exhausted, because you're also trying to run around, promote yourself and do all the admin and all the other things, if you do too much of that, it sucks your creative energy. It starts to eat you up as a creative. You're like, I don't have the energy to be creative anymore because I've been doing so much admin for, my own brand or whatever.
So that's the idea with that's why you're the queen of delegation, right? Because the whole point with like having a virtual assistant is you delegate all the different tasks to them, right?
100%. And I'm also very creative, by the way. I mean, it's a bit pretentious, but on Instagram, I've said creative entrepreneur because all I do is create in my business and it's in the constraints of my business. And I mean, if I could do anything I wanted right now, because I still have to keep the business running. But I would just play with other creative businesses for fun, just to see what I could do if there was like no financial implications. So I love to be creative in whatever I do. And anything for me that's the same task over and over again, it drains my energy and it kills my soul. And I hate like petty tasks, messaging and stuff. Like, I mean, a podcast, fine, it can be quite interesting with a guest, but when you're doing the same thing over and over again, the same messages, the same format, explaining the same things to people, for us creative people, it's not good for us. We don't like it. We have to do it. That's why we do it. But it's not, all we usually want to do if you're very creative is be brainstorming or performing, and that's it. Be creating or performing your creation or whatever it is. And we don't want to be doing anything else. So if every single other thing was delegated to someone at like the £3, $4 an hour, if you're like in a financial position to do that, then how much further could you go? And especially if they had the time, if you had a couple of them or 10 of them, how many more performances would they book for you? How much more social content would they put for you rather than you doing it yourself? This is where you start to really accelerate very, very fast. If you treat yourself like a personal brand, that's the angle I'm taking on that.
Okay. Yeah. And I would also like to know about your experience here in Mexico. Like, how do you feel that this country has helped you to grow? And yeah.
No, I love that question. I'm really grateful to Mexico. I think it's been quite a healing place for me. When I first came here, I was burnt out. I'd been spending too much money. I needed to just stop and recalibrate. They give 6 months on entry. The visa here is 6 months on entry. And so for a lot of nomads, that means, okay, I'm going to spend the 6 months because you've given me 6 months, not, 3 months or what other countries might do. And then I think every time I've had that, I've come here, I've had the time, and then I look, the people, they're so warm, funny, friendly. They've got a wicked sense of humor here. I love it. You have the language thing, the English, Spanish language thing, but coming from England, we have quite a dry, dark sense of humor. The Mexicans are exactly the same. So if you find that one of you speaks the other's language really well, they absolutely understand the jokes, like very, very well. And then, the weather is fantastic. I love the Day of the Dead. I love the music and dance culture here. I think it's very, very special. I just don't think you can get bored in Mexico. I think if you get bored, it's your fault. Like whether you're within Mexico City or Mexico in general, there's so much to do. It's just the least boring place, vibrant, colorful. The Day of the Dead that I mentioned, like we're terrible with death in England. We just like try not to talk about it. Everything's grey and miserable, and you bury someone and no one ever goes to the cemetery again unless there's like a pathway through it going somewhere. We're just very bad. And here they've got such a different attitude, and I think it's healthier and more healing. I've really loved and appreciated the warmth and the friendliness of this culture, and it is something that's quite hard to find in a lot of other countries in the world, I have to say. The cost of living is better for me coming from London. I would not be able to live in London the way that I do here. So, that does make a huge difference to me. I mentioned the international community is so strong here. Obviously, I've met you guys, and, that continues to be, and whatever you're interested in, like whether it's not just meet foreign people, it's meet foreign people who are interested in music or interested in stand-up comedy or interested in business. Like there are all those mini niches around everywhere. Or, there's a British society here, so they have like English food days and things like that. So you can kind of find almost anything and all these different types of communities. So yeah, I mean, as I kind of settled into Mexico during COVID, some people had a horrible time in COVID, but I actually made a lot of friends and found a lot of stability. And it's been phenomenal. I'm a resident now that, I'm really grateful for that too. And I think Mexico will always be in my life, even if I'm not necessarily here full time as I experiment with different bases. It's the strongest base I have, stronger than England these days. So yeah, I really do love it here.
We use all the same words that you do to describe our experience as well. Like we consider it very healing. Like Mexico is just amazing, and exactly like we think that there's no way to be bored here. It's so stimulating. Yeah.
Yeah, like you say, if you're bored, there's something.
It's your fault.
It's your fault. Yeah.
Yeah. You're hiding. You don't want to come out or something. Yeah.
100%. You've decided to stay in your room and say it's boring, or it's not true. It's like it's your fault. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. So, was there a country that you kind of, didn't enjoy? Like European.
There's been a few. I don't really want to name names. It's so funny though, because someone will get upset, and a lot of people.
Let's do continent. You can just mention the continent generally.
The continent will be upset.
No, but it's both. It's both. There's there's places in Asia I loved, and there's places in Asia that I was like absolutely not. There was it's kind of the same in Latin America and the same in Europe. I will say though that I just think it's so individual. Like a country is kind of like a person that you like. You meet them and you're like, I don't like them, but someone else meets them and I'm like, that is my favorite like country/person in the whole world. I don't know what you're talking about. Everything about this thing is great. And you're like, I hated it. It's just so individual. It's like, what stimulates you? what kind of environment, you know, like I say, it's like a person. This person makes you laugh. You feel connected to them. You know, when you introduce two friendship groups and you're really close to both, but you're like, I don't know if this is going to work. Like this could go really wrong. Like almost a bit like that. But as I mentioned before, so that there is a bit more clarity on this, I am drawn to places with that kind of family warmth values, good weather, affordable cost of living, and most of the places I like are fairly chaotic. That probably gives people a very good idea of the kind of places I like and the kind of places I struggle with. So,
Right. So, like in which countries in Asia have you visited? Just because we're from there.
so I did Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Japan so far.
Okay, so a lot of Southeast Asia and Japan. Singapore, you have not visited, right?
I have not been there yet. I would love to go to Singapore, Hong Kong,
Okay.
Taiwan,
When
Bali.
we are back there, then you should come.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, you know, we are actually kind of reaching the closing portion
Few
of
minutes
our
of our show.
You know,
Yeah.
and at this point, we usually invite the guests to kind of give some parting words, you know, words of advice. Or,
Yeah, I think it would be great if you could talk to like the aspiring entrepreneurs out there who want to be remote as well, like you. Like, what are the challenges and advice, basically?
Yeah, there's two things. It's so funny with entrepreneurship, you know, because most of us start because we want more freedom. It's a huge driving word for a lot of entrepreneurs. We or they want more freedom. I mean, that's why my business is called The Freedom Geek. You know, I'm obsessed with freedom. I'm also a total geek. I geeked out on all the systems and the ways that I've achieved it for myself. I think what can be interesting with entrepreneurs is that they get so obsessed with their business and how much money they're making that they forget the freedom. They forget that they give up their jobs where they're working 40 hours. They start working 80 hours for themselves. And if they don't take note, they'll be doing that for the next 10 years. And the irony is like, you might have had the freedom to work for yourself if you want to see it that way, but you don't have any freedom. You don't have any life balance. Like all of the things that, you know, was your vision in the first place, you lose. So I'm really grateful for the entrepreneurial community I've done business with. They have supported me. I'm living very differently to a lot of them. They are typically not nomadic, but they take one look at the way I'm doing things and they're like, yeah, we like this because it resonates with that original vision they have. And I try and bring them back to that place, because being both nomadic and an entrepreneur, you have to balance it. The two things are completely conflicting. Stay home and work all day or get out and see the world. And that balance is you know, something that you have to kind of embrace and remember why you're doing this all in the first place. And then I just want to mention two more things. One is I'm going to get this wrong, but it was Tony Robbins' definition of success. And I think of it more like almost a definition of freedom. But he said something like, success is doing what you want, when you want, where you want, with who you want, as much as you want. And I love that. And like, I'm trying to get there. I'm probably a lot further than a lot of people. He said it in a different order. And then the final thing I just want to mention, because this touched my heart and soul and made me take the jump. There's a book about the biggest regrets of the dying. I don't know if you guys have heard of this. It's quite interesting. So it was written by a nurse who was looking after people who were dying. And of course, some of them were dying for old age, but some of them were young. They were dying from terminal illness. They weren't older. And she saw that people kept saying the same things over and over and over again. So she documented the patterns of what they were saying. And the number one regret of the dying was this thing about live a life true to yourself, not to what you think other people expect of you. And I think whether you want to be a digital nomad or not, for some people, that may not be the thing, but just be very careful about living your life on some autopilot that you think society expects of you. Because as the biggest regret of the dying, like I always wonder, do a lot of people really want to live how I live, or is it just not right for people? But I do think a lot of people are suppressing what they really want from life, and they will regret it at some point, and you really got to be careful of that. So having torn up everything and gone for it, and it wasn't easy, I think that's just something I want to say.
It's really beautiful. Thank you for joining us here, Imogen.
Thank you for those words, and yeah, we definitely agree with what you're saying and feel that sentiment also. And also want to kind of invite you to be a part of that foreign show family and share with us your journey.
Yeah, like we will catch up with you every now and again and see like how's it, how's everything, how's growing in Mexico. Yeah.
How's my Spanish? Not as good as it should be.
I'm sure it's a ton better than ours. So
Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you both.
all right, so I'm Celestine Angel,
I'm Isaac Rakesh.
and we have Imogen Cook with us, and we are here on ADR Networks, activating your senses. Peace.
ADR Networks presenta